This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. You know, it seems to me that it's nearly impossible to argue that the United States isn't based on a premise of white supremacy. That's not to say that all Americans are white supremacists. That's not to say that the majority of us are bad people, that we're all racist. But certainly the system under which our government was created was a white supremacist system. I mean, we enshrined slavery as an operating norm into our Constitution, into our way of government, making it legal to buy and trade and sell human beings as property. We've come a long way since then, of course, but there's a long way to go to dismantle those entrenched systems of white supremacy. This year, I promised myself, I made an agreement with myself that I was going to do a whole lot more punching up and little to no punching down. I get a lot of criticism for calling Donald Trump names and generally causing problems for the power structure in the United States. And I believe it's all of our duty to do so. I don't look at that as a negative thing. I'm not attacking private citizens. I'm attacking our leaders, people who should be held to account. And part of the punching up is I'm also going to criticize those who are in place to prop up and legitimize that system of white supremacy in our country and that racist power structure that we have. Now listen, if you deny that we are based on a system of white supremacy, we've had 44 different men, we're not even going to get into the patriarchy, but we've had 44 different men president of the United States. One of them, a black man. We've had only 10 in the history of our country. 10 black members of the Senate. 3 of which are in there right now. It just seems so obvious to me. Anyway, Candace Owens is someone. She is a black conservative, a grifter, who has dedicated her time in the spotlight to propping up and legitimizing that system of white supremacy. Some have called her a white supremacist, a black white supremacist. Not far off the mark if you look at the definition of white supremacist, which, according to Merriam-Webster, a person who believes that the white race is inherently superior to other races and that white people should have control over people or other races. And we're going to get into this post that she put up yesterday entitled Confession. I do not support George Floyd, and I refuse to see him as a martyr, but I hope his family receives justice. Well, thanks, Candy. We appreciate it. I'm sure his family does too. And I'm gonna argue my point that she is indeed a white supremacist based on her own words. I took a few clips. I suffered through her 18-minute screed that now, at the time of this filming, has 34 million views on Mark Zuckerberg's platform of disinformation, Facebook. And we're going to go through this. So I'm going to do this a little differently. We're going to be side by side here, or side by side, however it looks on your computer, or your tablet, or your phone, or however you're viewing this. But we're going to go through this bit by bit, these 5 separate clips, and really dismantle the heart of her argument, her punching down, as it were, and really just breaking her arms, patting herself on the back about how logical she is, and doing all kinds of heavy lifting for white supremacists like Donald Trump. Let's get into this.
I recently came across something that was an idea that was planted into my head by Shelby Steele, and it has been something that I cannot forget. It is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And it is something that I hope for the Black Americans that are watching will stick with you for the rest of your life. Shelby Steele said that the Black community is unique from other communities. Our culture is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. Now, let me explain what that means. It means to say that not every Black American is a criminal, not every Black American is committing crimes, but we are unique in that we are the only people that fight and scream and demand support and justice for the people in our community that are up to no good. You would be hard pressed to find, a Jewish person who has spent 5 stints in prison, who commits a crime and dies while committing a crime, and that the Jewish people champion and demand justice for. You will be hard pressed to find this in white America. You'll be hard pressed to find this even in Latino America.
Wow. You'd be hard pressed to even find it in Latino America because, the criminality that just naturally exists within the Latino community. Even there, you'd be hard pressed to find it. Ugh. Racist trash. So I'm glad that she admits in the beginning of beginning of this that she had this idea planted into her head. Look, Candace, the United States is founded on several principles, and it has been codified in not only our founding documents, but our Constitution, and further through the amendment process of our Constitution. That everyone has the presumption of innocence. That we have the right to a fair trial. We have the right to counsel. That we will be represented fairly. That we have equal justice under the law. Equal protection under the law. And for you to say that, people in the Jewish community, if someone had committed a crime and then was killed, they wouldn't be propping that person up. How do you know? Are you some kind of a psychic? Do you know that George Floyd committed a crime prior to his murder by police? Because it seems if you're an American and you have an understanding of the Constitution, you would know that we have the presumption of innocence. You don't know. Now, clearly, there was a call made. There was a charge made that he may have committed a crime. But cops aren't the arbiters of justice. They are not the judge and the jury. They are merely the mechanism by which we arrest and charge accused criminals. And that is where we start with her white supremacist attitude. Already charging that we in the Black community love to prop up our criminals, the lowest common denominator, as heroes. That's not at all what is being done here. Let's move on.
I also am not going to accept the narrative that this is the best the Black community has to offer. For whatever reason, it has become fashionable over the last 5 or 6 years for us to turn criminals into heroes overnight. And it is something that I find to be despicable, and it is something that I refuse to stand by any longer, and I am not going to play a part in it no matter how much pressure comes from Black liberals and Black conservatives as some token of people wanting you to believe that this is the only way you can be Black, is you have to say this was wrong and that this person was amazing. I won't do that. George Floyd was not an amazing person. And as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and was looking at the police officer, and everyone agrees that the police officer was wrong and the police officer has been arrested. So that is not the reason I'm not discussing that, is because that is not something that has been misconstrued in the media. He has been turned into the devil that he is, and there is no reason for us to harp on that any longer, because white Americans are not uplifting Derek Chauvin as a victim or pretending that he's an amazing human being. But George Floyd is being uplifted as an amazing human being.
Look, she's not going to accept that this is the best the Black community has to offer. This is a straw man idiocy argument. No one is claiming, propping him up as this is the best the Black community has to offer. But aren't we a merciful, just society? Shouldn't we even offer people who have had criminal run-ins in the past mercy? Don't they also deserve justice? Candace Owens? Yeah. Maybe he did have some run-ins with the law. But by the way, for the next 5 or so, maybe 6, 8 minutes, she rambles on reading disparaging things about George Floyd. And for her to want to focus on George Floyd and his past, the murdered George Floyd, and then say, well, we don't need to talk about the cop, Derek Chauvin. We don't need to talk about him because he's been arrested. He's being treated like the devil that he is. The reason he's being treated like the devil that he is, Candace Owens, is because of the justified outrage and protest that was demonstrated all across this country. If not for that, it would likely go down like every other case we've seen, where the cops get away with literal murder. Think about this sitting out there, America and the world. How many cases can you think of right off the top of your head where a cop was convicted? I can think of one. Walter Scott. And only because there was video evidence. Only because there was video evidence. Even in the case of Ahmaud Arbery. Because there's video evidence, this former cop and vigilante, gun nut, racist, is being convicted. Is being tried at the very least. Come on. So she only wants to focus for 18 minutes on George Floyd, but we don't need to talk about the white guy who did the killing because, that would dismantle the white supremacy system in the United States, and it would destroy her narrative that it's the black people, her black community is the one that needs the finger pointed at it. They're the one who has done the wrong. Let's let her continue after her 5 or 6 or 7 minutes ranting and raving about the record, as she sees it, of George Floyd.
Did he deserve to die in that manner? No. I can't say it enough. No, he didn't deserve to die in that manner. But I will be damned if the rest of us upstanding black citizens have to suffer because of this incident that rarely ever happens in America. So here are some numbers for you people that are still believing that police brutality is a real, racially motivated police brutality is a real thing. First and foremost, okay, you have a 25% higher chance as a violent white criminal of dying at the hands of a police officer than you do as a black criminal. Last year, a total of 9 unarmed black men were killed by police officers, and 19 white men were killed by police officers. For those of you that aren't good at mathematics, right, you might be thinking, oh, but Candace, white people represent 60% of the population and black people represent just 13% of the population. It doesn't matter what percentage of the population you represent. It matters what percentage of the violent criminal community you represent. And unfortunately, black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community.
Where to begin? Rarely ever happens in this country. It rarely ever happens. Apparently, she's not heard the news about George Floyd that we're currently talking about, or Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Freddie Gray, Botham Jean. Come on. Or the aforementioned Ahmaud Arbery, who was hunted down by vigilante psychos and murdered, summarily executed, while they stood over his dead body using racial epithets, which is just now being reported. This hardly ever happens. Then why can we rattle off name after name after name after name? Alton Sterling. There's another one. Why? Why is that the case? If it so rarely happens. Notice there, no citation for her source. She's just rambling numbers. I'm not going to do that, though. We're going to look at numbers. The Washington Post has been tracking police shootings in the United States for many years. Not just the shootings of black men or unarmed black men, but shootings all across the country. Look at these numbers. Black Americans are killed at a much higher rate than white Americans. Although half of the people shot and killed by police are white, black Americans are shot at a disproportionate rate. They account for less than 13% of the U.S. population, roughly 6% for men, but are killed by police at more than twice the rate of white Americans. Hispanic Americans are also killed by police at a disproportionate rate. Now, I wonder why that would be. Is it because our system is set up by white men? A white supremacist system that needs to be dismantled and rearranged? Yes, that is why. Look at these numbers. Black men are more likely to be fatally shot while unarmed, Candace Owens. Compared to their numbers in the overall population, an unarmed black man is about 4 times more likely to be killed by police than an unarmed white man. Unarmed. Look at those numbers. 4.9 unarmed black men per 1 million are shot and killed by armed agents of the state, while 1.1 white men are killed per 1 million. Come on. It is absurd. And then she says, the black community, and here, look, this right here is the evidence, if you were waiting for it, the hard evidence of her being a white supremacist. The black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. AKA, black people are just more criminally inclined than whites. White people aren't as criminally inclined. White people are better than black people. It's inherent. That's what she's saying. How is that not a white supremacist attitude? How is that not an attitude shared by racists all across the country? By Stephen Miller and Donald Trump in the White House. By former Chief Policy Advisor Steve Bannon. By Richard Spencer. By David Duke. Those are the same things they would say. Candace Owens, you're doing their work for them. You're carrying water for white supremacists. At the very least, if you're not, by some chance, a white supremacist, you're sure doing a lot of heavy lifting for white supremacists. And number 4.
You want to know the best way to avoid not being brutalized by a police officer is to limit the amount of encounters you need to have with them, especially when it comes to violent crimes. Okay? I am not going to stand for this continual bottom-feeding narrative of us martyring people that have had 5, 6, 7 stints in prison and then pretending they were upstanding heroes to our community. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Excuse my language. It's absolute bullshit. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of having to play pretend. I'm tired of sitting here and being called a coon or an Uncle Tom because I won't play this bottom-feeding game with you. If you want to hang up posters of criminals on your wall and talk about them as your martyrs, do it. Do it. You can do it.
You can do it. You can do it. Look, no one is saying that. This is a straw man bullshit argument. Oh, excuse my language. I wouldn't want to offend my Prager University audience. My white nationalist Christian audience with their white American version of Christianity. Oops, bullshit. No one's saying that. No one's saying that we need to lionize people who have done stints in prison. But they're certainly due justice. They're certainly due mercy and equality, fairness across the board, especially in the judicial system. And let me say, it is on its face abhorrent to say, you know what, the best way to not be brutalized by armed agents of the state who have a penchant for murdering black people? Don't interact with them. The problem isn't that they're killing people at disproportionate rates to that of whites. It's not that they're brutalizing. She's admitting that they're brutalizing people. That's not the problem. The problem is with the black people. The crime, the usurpation of rights, isn't the problem. It's, if you'd only complied, if you'd only followed orders, you wouldn't have been murdered. Was that the case with George Floyd? Because he seemed like he was following orders to me. He seemed like he was complying to me. Philando Castile, remember, announces he's got a concealed carry weapon and accompanied by a concealed carry permit. Murdered. Summarily executed in his car. If he'd only complied, that's the way to not get brutalized. Let me tell you something, Candy. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think, am I going to be murdered today when I drive to the grocery store? Am I going to be brutalized by armed agents of the state because they're afraid of my skin color? Because these highly armed, highly trained professionals fear the canvas that covers my body? No, because my color isn't weaponized against the cops. They're not so petrified with fear, afraid for their lives, because I'm white. And I look like the power structure. I look like the white supremacist power structure. I have that privilege. It is disgusting for you, Candace Owens, to carry water for racists. And look, if you're not buying it yet that she is carrying water for racists, that she has this internalized white supremacy running through her, listen to this final clip.
What do you think the perception of us, by the way, is on the outside? You ever look at the comments? You ever go into like an anonymous blog and see what people say? Oh, just black people being black people. I see those racist comments. Oh, just black people got to riot. Black people got to be black people. You know how they are. Oh, just black people being ignorant. That is the perception. When people get to be anonymous and talk about us, that's what they think about us, right? They think that we are the kind of people that will forever uphold criminals as the martyrs of our society, that we will never take account for the things that we do wrong, right? That we don't have it within us to educate ourselves to get ahead. And that for those of us that actually do it, well, we get called coons, right? You got Condoleezza Rice, she's a coon. Larry Elder, he's a coon. Dr. Ben Carson, brain surgeon, first ever to perform the surgery of splitting twins that are connected by the head. He's a coon, right? What a loser he is. What a stupid guy he is. Kanye West says he's not going to be told to do it because of the color of his skin. He's a coon. He's lost. He's in the sunken place. The sunken place. That's where we all are, right? Because we demand more and we will get more out of this society because we're going to get ahead, right? That's what's going to happen. We're going to get ahead. Black conservatives get ahead because we don't subscribe to this narrative. Because you're not going to catch me outside trying to grab a TV pretending that it's because a martyr named George Floyd got killed. Okay?
Black conservatives get ahead because they hold up the narrative of white supremacy. They work in service to the power structure, Candace Owens. They're not getting ahead because we're not going to take it anymore. They're taking it, all right. And as far as Ben Carson and Kanye West and Larry Elder, get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? Ben Carson, listen. There's a difference between being talented like Kanye, talented like Ben Carson. Even Larry Elder is a talented man. There's a difference between that and selling out the truth to serve at the behest of a white supremacist president. There's also a difference between being well-trained and being a world-class neurosurgeon and being a dummy who thinks that the pyramids were built to store grain like Ben Carson thinks. As far as Kanye West, I mean, come on. He, again, just like you, Candace Owens, is carrying a lot of water, carrying a lot of weight, doing a lot of work, wearing a MAGA hat, the new symbol of white supremacy. And then the last comment, disgusting, that I'm not going to go out there and loot a TV. Candace Owens, I hate to be the white face to break it to you. White people loot too. White people this past weekend looted. It is not a black crime. It's not reserved for black people. There is a criminal element among humanity. All of humanity, you knucklehead. There's no more a criminal inclination among black people than there is white people. And for you to repeat that and hold that up, all you do is give all of the white commenters on this video who are so proud of you for standing up to the truth. All you are is a tool of white supremacy. And I, for one, just like you, not standing for this and that, I won't stand for that. I'm not going to allow your lies to go unimpeded, unchallenged. You're a vile white supremacist. And you should repent. Quietly, in your quiet place, when you're alone, at night. Pray to whatever God it is that you serve. And ask for forgiveness for the damage that you've done. For the legitimacy that you've offered unto your false idol of racism and white supremacy. Anyway, I would love to know what you think, audience. 714-576-4054. I don't know. It's going to take a lot of work from all of us to beat back these types of ideas that the simple-minded find so appealing. This is junk food, intellectual junk food. It goes down easy, feels real good when you're eating it. But it's really, it's geared toward a low-information audience. Anyway, as I always, or try to sometimes end my videos, a little tough when all this stuff is going on. If you've been on the fence, if you are in a position to, I would appreciate you considering becoming a channel member. For fewer than $2 a month, you can click that little join button down there and become a channel member here on YouTube. And right now, independent media voices like myself, look, you're not going to see this stuff on CNN, MSNBC, certainly not going to see it on Fox News. You'll see a lot of Candace Owens, but not a lot of me, not a lot of this type of reporting and commentary analysis. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Please consider it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys so much. Be genuine and take care of one another.